Love is all I know, and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. Today begins part one of two-part videos that will be my final videos on YouTube that are all about physical ascension as a gift of the Illumined seed that was on this planet Earth, seated as the third wave of the cosmic Christ. And it was done through me, through us as the Illumined team. And when I recently made a video about true angelic Illumined Ascension, I talked about, for me specifically in my group and my team, where this is, and this home is Arcturus. Today I will give you a deeper presentation of how the cosmic Christ plays out in this galaxy, in this universe, as a principle that is meant to be sustained and proliferated through the life in this beautiful creation of God, this organic, sovereign, chosen self principle that God birthed at each beingness in the first place, and how this is about the Illumined ones who are always there with God, always following and moving their consciousness through the Illumined seed of life. I will actually, as I already shared with all of you, finally dispensate this whole Cosmic Christ course that was somehow prevented 3 years in the making. But finally, I even did a synthesis. Recently, I received some more information, so I'll be able to share that on Patreon. The Illumined legacy, of course, will continue, as I also shared with all of you, but today I'm also going to show you the cosmic drawings that will give you a deeper insight into what this means. I did some additional cosmic drawings as to the last video I made when I shared them all that were, drawn since that point, that were channeled since then. It was last year in spring, I believe. But I will also, before I leave them on my webpage. They will be available there to have your own divine remembrance sparked through these drawings, because we're all channeled through principles of Illumined light and the cosmic Christ. So I'm going to show you two drawings in this video and two in the next one, which will be more about the beloved sector of our ascension experience as the Illumined seed of life that was present, anchored into the core of this planetary living and the template of Earth. If you remember, in 2019, I almost ascended in a way. I was very close. But what happened is, transgression happened. And before that, our mission was to complete the anchoring of the Illumined seed into the planetary core. And my videos were all related to that. And remember, I started doing our team essence work through the pulsar. And when I show you this cosmic drawing, you will better understand, as I'm going to explain to you, some of the essential things to understand that the cosmic Christ is a principle that contains three aspects or three levels of holiness that is the Christ. All three must be equally sustained within one's being and proliferated through life in this vast creation by those who serve the principle of cosmic Christ. And through it, all of these beings who serve it are one, and we're one, and we serve the great God, or the great beloved Creator, our Godhead, that continuously wants to move life through union out into this vast creation of life that is holy, or life as a Holy Spirit. We've talked about before how the Illumined design, Illumined life, Illumined legacy is a legacy of life, and that is the life that is the spark of God, that is infinite, eternal, and therefore illuminated in its intelligence, and so it is holy. And that there's been waves of how this was coming into our planetary sphere, cosmically speaking, and that the cosmic Christ principles are initiatives of various high council beings who are, in a way, star elders who've illuminated themselves throughout the process of how life moved throughout this galaxy and this universe. And together they created this legacy known as the Cosmic Christ Initiative. And us, our team, represents the pulsar, or the Arcturian aspect of that. And I'm going to tell you some more why my experiences in this life were like this, as they were. I'm going to maybe start with this before I show you the drawings and tell you some things and give you some messages from home. And I also want to share in this video some of the legacy of the work of beings who are living different missions, because there is what we call Turian mission, Palladian mission, and also the Syrian mission. This doesn't mean that other star beings and other initiatives are not important, but this trine, or this triangle called the Golden Triangle, is the way these high councils have been formed to specifically, as illumined elders or illumined beings who are in the governing positions of serving God this way through the cosmic Christ principles, and maintaining and sustaining them, and of course proliferating life and teaching others and dispensating these teachings when time comes, when God had asks, through the high council of Elohim, the primordial holy Elohim. And we are just, each who are part of this, these just call us illumined elders. We go and we move as God tells us, as life force of God governs our lives. We're one with divine will. So my perspective this entire life, and my teachings were not the same as teachings of the one that we know as Jesus the Christ, for example, but he was the Syrian archetype and template of the cosmic rays that I'll share more in the course that's coming. It's not even a course, it's a sacred teaching that will be available on Patreon for all to ever follow into, learn much about from, and remember about their own star lineages and origins, because as they say, you're not ready to fully go and return back home until you have all your galactic remembrance pouring back down. And the reason why sometimes this is not so is because you're not meant to know. But when I started receiving this information first was in 2019, and we went to this beautiful ocean side, you know, by mostly living by the mountains. And there we both simultaneously had our first contact. We me with my team Aureus, and they presented themselves as queens at her Queen's Royal Majesty service. They said we are the Illumined Turian aspect called Aureus. And my mother had her first contact with Lamayan back then. It was all very much simultaneous. And I remember there was these lightnings coming in, and we had so much information, and I was just in awe. I was just, the whole retreat, it was just a few days, I was just channeling information, just writing it all down, remembering, and they were showing me different things. And even back then, as I'll also share in the dispensation teachings on Patreon, that the way the illumined light was moving throughout the star systems, they told me back then that we, who we are, after the Orion Wars, right, we came to an area that was called Arcturus, and well, basically they said we started forming an alliance and growing our illumined intelligence. So you also have to know that when I asked, and in my own remembrance, we didn't have missions like this before, and that was in 2019 when they first told me that we are the first time on this planet, not just me, my own embodiment, but also a whole team that was sent here to do this illumined seed work. And I was the illumined seed in this lifetime based on the cosmic Christ principles. I was the physical embodiment of that, just like Jesus the Christ from the Syrian perspective. That was the wave that needed to be anchored back then. He was the representative of what that body of teaching is in that mastery school of illumined elders that all comprise one golden trine, through which the holiness of the divine trinity of life that is known to us as God is represented and moves the life force out into this vast creation. So back then they already told me this was the first time, and we were not here before. And they said, as a consciousness, they said we were never physical before. They said we are very high density beings, and we were never physical, but we were approached through the high council of Elohim, and in its own right, God directive, chosen to be here and to do our work. And that's simply how it was. And so the reason and how my embodiment came to be is to plant and anchor the seed of that, and to be the teaching. But the teachings in itself were just a very minimum part of what I had to do here on this planet. Most of my work was energetic. And what a lot of people still don't understand is that once the darkness knows and finds out who you are, and knows that you're here as the seed of the illumined Christ, which, as you know, it's just a few embodiments that were in this planet as such. Some we don't know about, and some were specifically related to the mission of the continuation of the golden trine of the cosmic Christ principles of life as sovereign, illumined, and life everlasting and eternal. That is the main essence of life of God. And once the darkness or the opposing side or the Antichrist knows who you are, they will do anything in their power to destroy you, to kill your body, to destroy the mission, to prevent the mission. And that's also why in 2019, as you know, transgression happened for me, for us, the entire team. my or our intelligence, I always say our because we are we, where we come from. They told me even years back that where I come from, we are a collective. And if you look into specific book links, there's only one booklet that ever resonated with me, parts of it. It's called Wisdom, is it, I don't know, Initiations from the Star, or Star Blessings by Virginia Essene and Irving something, I don't remember the last name now. It's an interesting booklet because he talks about masters of the star and different constellations having different varieties of expressions and energies, and what initiations, when we connect to these star energies, that they're just emanated, right, through subtle energy fields, how we can receive these blessings, how humans can receive them. But also what happens is, when they told me that specifically the Arcturian, Illumined Arcturian initiative, right, on this planet is still, from the perspective of embodiments, it was new. Dating all the way back, you know, it's always been invested. All these three are, even it's described in the booklet, that these are the three main civilization origins of the stars and their principles leading the life forward, the most involved in the bringing of the Christ legacy and discipleship, you know, here on the planet. And it's the truth. So, as you know, the Pleiadian is the oldest. Even Pleiadian bodies have the most genetic depository in our human bodies, but there's also specific beings who don't just have a lineage of the Pleiadian origin. We, as you know now, so many investments of beings here in this planet, we all have different origins, but one always predominantly is, you know, it's a dominant type of our genetic inheritance. But there's beings who have a direct vertical soul lineage from the Pleiades, for example, and Pleiadian star lineage that is most dominant in their DNA makeup as a human, and even their ancestry. So in that regard, their mission will be more of a Pleiadian mission than someone who has an Arcturian mission or someone who has a Sirian mission. It's a very different thing, and I'll explain it partially here. But speaking from my perspective, as I said, the Arcturians are, even in that, I'm talking not about races like physical beings, we're talking about illumined beings who are starborn beings that have elevated themselves to a very high density. They're not physical in their origin anymore. They're like, they exist in high frequency light bodies, right? And our bodies are the way the human can imagine it, right? They're almost like our bodies are like fields of generating currents of life force. That's how I see us and our bodies back home. They're like, bodies are created to generate currents of life force. And when I say this, I have tears in my eyes. So in that regard, you also have to know that my mission here as the Illumined Arcturian seed of the pulsar design, right? Because I told you the names. We have Electra being Pleiadian, we have Sonar as the Sirian, and Pulsar is the Arcturian, talking about the way we proliferate life, the way we move life force. This is what these names mean, right? And the way we move life force is through galactic pulsar of light. That's an advanced spiral understanding and teaching. So I've been dispensating these cosmic spiral teachings as are part of the cosmic Christ involvement and investment as what we are. It's not for me, it's not a teaching I received from a being. This is who I am. I come and originate from there, and that's why this for me was always an inherent knowing. It wasn't something that I needed to learn. I wasn't initiated by star being that I was a human. No, I was first time born, illumined seed of the Illumined Arcturian pulsar, advanced understanding. So even as a human, I was always super advanced, even more than other star beings. And even in the booklet, it says that Arcturians are the most advanced beings in this region, right? In this galaxy. And hence, you know, our involvement is yet to come with this planet. Even in the book, it says that so far, and even from the relation of our star proximity, right? The star Sirius is the closest to Earth. It's about 8 light years away, and that's why even Jesus Christ as a teacher was so prominent. He was literally the brother, because Sirius, many say, it's like twin star of our planet, our planetary sun, right? Our soul sun. And the investment here is even closer to beings and feel closer proximity. And for example, when I came here as an illumined being, elder, and teacher, not a lot of people resonate with me. A lot of them said, this is too advanced, I don't understand it, you know. And not just this, what I talked about in the videos in general was very general, but when you come and do my initiations, like later transmissions that follow, especially after transgression years, and the spiral teachings, they are advanced, but in a way they're also very simple, because the cosmic Christ principles are simple. Advancement comes because you have to move beyond the restrictions of your mind to understand these things, right? But like I said, even in the booklet, it says that the Arcturians will be the ones who will be leading now the humanity into the new understanding of the Christ, which is true, you know. And even in the New Age teachings, you have the Arcturians as being the ascension guides and those who pulling the planet into a new spiral alignment, basically. And this is why the first part of our mission to be completed was to pull and do our connection with our cosmic Christ wave, to connect it with the core of this planet. For understanding these things, you can't go into the human mind, and you know, for people who don't have this mission, they won't understand it. Of course, I'm sharing it because I want to live a full imprint of who I am, who I was, you know, even beyond me not being physical here anymore. I want there to be a legacy that is pure, and that I'm just emanated myself in my entirety, in my totality, regardless of the fact whether people knew or understood me or not, which I know it's difficult, you know, at times. But for me, you have to know, my whole life, by being the seed, I was mostly the vessel. My life was not based on having much human contact or relationships, things like that. I was literally created for the mission purpose only. And that's why most of my life, I didn't live so much as a feminine, even a masculine. I lived as a vessel. I was just lived as I explained, the Arcturian seed is like, we are vessels for how life force is generated. Like our energy bodies are like fields, and they can generate and emanate massive amounts of energy. But because of that, my human life was very lonely. I was living in this isolated remote spaces. It's a funny fact, because someone once said to me that there's this charting system, life design, human design, I don't know, and then even there it says that my most natural environment for me is the mountains. And even in that book it says the Arcturian energy, the subtle energy fields, come through the mountains. And all my life since my awakening, I was pulled to the mountains. I wanted to walk the mountains until we moved here in 2013, as you know. And of course I love the sea and I miss the sea, and I'm longing for the sea, because I do feel that my ascension would occur by the sea. I don't know, I'm having that vision, which is strange, right? But for some reason, my whole life was difficult, and most people don't know this, and even people who have still high expectations and hopes about this planet. The thing is, you need to know that when you surpass a certain level of intelligence, you will be detected by the forces of opposition or the Antichrist. And this is what happened for me in 2019. Even beforehand, but 2019 was a major point when I was really intercepted in every single way. And even now, with coming into my own alignment and knowing home and knowing what's happening, I still have constant attempts at attacks. I've even was, you know, darkness used people that I helped to liberate them through my sessions and their own transgression and being transgressed and having these energy fields around them, so darkness moved through them when it cannot attack me directly anymore. It used people, and you know, people you want to help and people you want to love, but at the same time I needed to protect myself, because the mission for us, and especially ending with the physical ascension and resurrection of this body and claiming this body and going back home, was for us more important than individuals, right? So this work had to be completed, and just recently I completed that work. The last remaining part that I do have before I show you the drawings is what took place actually was that was this Friday. It was this Friday. It was a very elevated day, and suddenly I started smiling all the way up to my ears, and I felt them. I felt family, and I felt them like they're in this tiny place, like they're still in hiding, because you know they've been with me ever since. They also had to, the entire group had to go on a mission. They were not physical like I am, but it's like we had to leave what we call home, all of us, and come close to what we call the gates. They call this passageway the gates, right? They're at the gateway. So when the time comes, and I'm going to be talking about that at the last ascension video about the beloved Illumined Union Ascension, is they're needing to be very careful. And that's why I said I'm going to finish with these videos once and for all until the end of June. And July, August, I will be only open to receiving further instructions, and everything has to be really clear. And even people who would contact me past that date, please understand that I won't have time for one-on-one and to chit-chat or things. I'm really going to have to be focused, and it has nothing to do with you personally. It has everything to do with us. I've been working 10 years nonstop, but especially last 2 years, I barely had time for myself. That's all I did. Channel, work, assisted the session. Again, it was on and on. Even with transgression pain, even being heavily in pain sometimes, I still had to do the work. There was no excuses for me. That's how I live my life, no excuses. And I live my life intensely, and that's why it's full. My life has been a full life. I've walked 1,000 mountains. I've had a beautiful life in nature. but it doesn't feel the same anymore. Literally, as I've shared in the previous videos, I feel 1 foot in our world already, and this world just doesn't feel like I want to even anchor myself here. I'm non-anchoring. So it's like the opposite of what I had to do before when our lumen seed had to go to the core of the planet. I'm like disengaging and pulling out that anchor on all levels, right? It started with our home, and now even with the whole land, and I'm just not feeling any more. Life force engagement is a very interesting thing, because when I had a purpose, my life force went into nature, and I felt so much love, and it all went there. So, you know, for people who don't understand ascension, some people even ask me, well, I don't know, I'm not feeling it, I'm scared. No, it has nothing to do with you. This is my journey. This is what I was describing for us. Well, we are here, who we are, what we were meant to demonstrate, and what we will continue to demonstrate even past physical expression of who we were here. And the seated anchor we needed to plant here, right? And the cosmic Christ principle was just a God's initiative and a calling. And don't worry, if it's not your time, you won't feel it. Don't worry, people get into the mind. Don't go into the mind. Most people will live full lives here. But my life, even though you would say, oh, at a young age, you know, my body is not at a young age, because so much life force moved through me in these years. A field that you have to know that it's not just transgression energy that basically created a burning and like literally a whole falling out, not just my hair, but the pains I got, chronic like nervous system pain because of these attacks and these energies. But also you have to know our own energy, my own energy field is too advanced and too much for the way this human body vessel is currently designed and able to withhold and sustain. And I knew this, I foresaw it years ago. I saw like my life is going like this, like it's going in a nearing, it's like going in from this wide space that I knew when I first moved to these Alps into this kind of like a focal point, and then another gateway for a new life for me, for my real life, and to return to my true body, because you know, we already have our lumen bodies. For me, it's nothing I knew I have to create. That's why for me, ascension is like being ready and going and merging with the team. And it's just how it is with all advanced beings. You can't imagine that this human body in its density, in its state, will be the one who knows how to dematerialize. No, the consciousness that is a part of who we are, that legacy is going to do that. Is going to do all those things that are part of ascension. But you have to know that my life was difficult, not just because of darkness, but in itself just also because of who I am, who we are. And I knew that the more I embody this, the more I embody home, the more I bring it here and anchor it, that it will also in a way pull lots of life force from my body. And I'm feeling for the past year that my body is barely able to sustain itself in a normal way. I didn't have the kind of life most humans do, and a lot of people come to my path and they would say, I resonate with you in your path. Trust me something, if you live like I did, you would quickly see that it no longer resonates with you. You wouldn't want to live such a life. Constantly on a lookout, constantly needing to do constant prayer work, constant breakthrough work, vibration work, because there's counter forces that are counteracting the actions of the cosmic Christ principles on this planet, a hijacked planet, Luciferian planet, right? It is what it is. So you have to know that this purpose, as beautiful as it is, comes with a lot of counteraction, with a lot of counter activities. And regardless, I've been doing my job with great vehemence and determination and grace. That's why it comes out easy, but it's definitely not easy. When I come and wear these beautiful clothes to speak to you, it's not how I am in my random, not even random, but my day-to-day life. It's not how my life looks like. My life has been difficult from the perspective of knowing my mission so intently, not like just doing it on a whim, but I knew it. I was told things always. I knew it, I did it consciously, and even knowing certain things, and it was the same with Jesus the Christ. He knew what he's going to have to experience and go through, and still he did it with grace and poise, right? That's how we do things. We have to, because we're servants of the Most High. And on our path, we would meet many people, as I said, and these people would often resonate, and my life is the same. You don't want your life to be the same. And for most beings, like I say, when you get to a certain point of really embodying that advancement, you will be seen, and it won't be easy, because you will become, again, another mission agent who's going to be very dangerous. So when I talk about my life, and when I shared in the recent videos that this reality is kind of dangerous and a threat, I was also speaking for myself. You have to know this. It's not the same for everyone. Yes, this reality is never going to be the heaven, Eden, paradise you would like it to be. It's going to be constant invasion and constant distortion of the organic life. And all those who will remain here will witness this even more, as I already shared. But when I say that this life is kind of dangerous and in threat, this is how my reality became. And you have to understand that in a split second, when everything that once served you becomes as a limitation, the last resort and actually our purpose is physical ascension. There's no way for this body to experience more torture, more pain, more tax, more work. Like, this body has enough. You have to know that. And it's not coming out of fear. It's just like a purpose that's been fully fulfilled. And God already told me that I've done everything plus more. And so from that perspective, I just want to share that don't project your own thoughts. And, you know, I already told you that even since the beginning of my awakening, I never saw myself as old, like an old woman. I couldn't tap into the reality. And I have people that I know that would tell me, I see myself as an old woman, I'm fulfilled and I need to fulfill this. And yes, exactly. Most star children here, they will have to fulfill their purpose. That is also their way and their nature of serving the divine, is fulfilling their purpose. But you have to know something, that when I came here, I was never meant to live an individual life. Just like Jesus Christ did, and he belonged to God. His life was claimed by God fully. My life is the same. Everything in my life is already destined and sealed and predetermined. It's yet also that the more I know this recently, the more darkness tries to counteract me with sending me thoughts that I'm not ascending and it's going to only get worse for me, and there are physical situations which are all running down. And if I physically stayed like this, isolated, alone, with the lack of this physical help, support, and in this kind of environment now, in this kind of housing, it wouldn't be good. And it wasn't meant to be like this. That's the beauty of it all. But when darkness comes, all of you know that darkness, the most, how it plays on our heart is trying to plant seeds of doubt. Because in this doubt, we create different thoughts, we formulate different thoughts. And that's why you, my beloved one, you have to always remember who you are. And who you are and the way you translate into matter is knowing that you also, as everyone, you are thoughts of God that are being spoken through divine word, right? The word of the Christ, and then utilized and manifested as the human sovereign you, a being of God, a child of God, in its mighty love, wisdom, and power, in your own threefold nature of love, wisdom, power, and divine grace, through that intelligence of immaculate, infinitely sovereign life everlasting. The moment you remember this, it's not like, oh, I have it and then it's gone. You have to keep reinstating it. Like we say, Christ is an active principle, and life force that moves this through the golden spiral of life has to constantly, consciously engage with that, okay? And all of this will be taught in the Cosmic Christ teachings, more like from the higher perspective entirely. And I believe this will be, that was the legacy that was meant to be lasting, the understanding of the principles, the foundations of the Cosmic Christ and the Holy Trinity design of life, but also me knowing who I am and what the gifts and the blessings of the Illuminatorian legacy are. Because, like I said, my design for this life was to be a vessel, and this vessel had to channel whatever life force went through it. But because of that nature, the body that was claimed, this human being, right, that was claimed for this purpose, had a very tortured life from that perspective, had a difficult life. It was not a life of being privileged. It wasn't a life of, you know, I had lots of freedom. I did things in my own time, that for sure I did. But it was never an easy environment. It was never any physical support. It was never anything, you know, I was always having to be self-resourceful, self-sustaining. And for the last 12 years, actually, it was just me and my mother. So it was intense. And when this advancement, like I said, got so far and I understood everything and I saw clearly ahead, I also knew that this body cannot be sustaining, this body can hold the level of the massive field that I am. Like, our light bodies are like massive fields. And this is what I also explained, that many of you who will be ascending in the future timelines, that it will also feel like your body, it's like you want to outgrow it, and that's just a natural process. It's not something you worry about because you're supposed to ascend or you're in danger, you know, like, or you have to. Like I said, not everyone, they already showed me that the way we will ascend physically now will just be me and Florentina, my beautiful mother. They already told me, right, that we're going to bring her with us. And in a way, she was shown that all these years when she was physically on Earth, which was a lot, many cycles, many ages, she's gone through, they said she was like our spy, she was like our eyes. We were able to see how and what and how darkness plays. She was literally like a, you know, in those movies when they show an innocent child, but they're actually a spy working for someone on the behalf of beautiful intelligence, right? So they said that the primary initiative, right, is to ascend us this way because we belong. We're the only ones now in the cycle that will ascend this way, and with their pulsar and with their assistance. But they said everyone else who, as I've already explained, will be these old souls who've been on the planet for a very long time, and it's time for them to come home. They will, but they first have to fulfill their lives. They first have to fulfill their own purpose. I've explained before a little bit about this. The Arcturian initiative and the Arcturian purpose is still new. I think that after we've done this, there will be an ability. I've seen this, I think in 2019, that more of such light beings will start coming here as well. As a part of what we did, created an opening for that to be possible. But as I already explained, the first beings who came here, who also came here in pairings after the Orion Wars, or the Pleiadian legions, yeah? And these beings were on Earth the longest, and that's why they feel sometimes in their bodies that because of being on Earth for so long, they're slowed down, or here everything is so slow, and they remember lots of lifetimes. They have visions, even with their beloveds. Maybe sometimes how they couldn't come together. There's many stories I heard through people in these years, and I need to tell you that the Pleiadian mission now is two. You know, people talk about this counterparts. I talked about the counterparts, but for me, the counterpart was always Spirit beloved, mission beloved. That was my Arcturian beloved. But for beings who have a Pleiadian mission, that's the mission. The mission of the Pleiadian is that coming together, it's the union of masculine and feminine in the physical. That Heros Gamos, that Tantric beloved path, that's the Pleiadian part called Electra. And that's the reason why they feel such a strong desire to fulfill that, because they have to. It's in their predisposition, it's their life plan, and that's why no one will ascend prematurely, no one will be picked up, no one will have to go somewhere where they don't need to go. Ascension is not based on fear, my beloveds. Ascension is, everyone knows when it's time, they know. And like I said, not everyone goes to the same place. And even when some beings who will fulfill their purpose and they will ascend, they're not going to go where we are going, right? Because we belong to different regions of these beautiful systems that all together are held in this beautiful galaxy that the Mother contains with all of her life force and the holiness of life, sustaining it with such love. All the children, again, I said, will be fine, they'll be taken care of, but some need to go through their training, as I also explained. The Syrian mission is more like Jesus Christ, right? He showed the discipleship. Are more beings who are feeling a strong call to continue the teachings, who will feel the path of discipleship. That's the Syrian part. That's the Syrian path. And an interesting thing happened, right? Oh, I said, yeah, on Friday, family came. And I started explaining, but then I drifted off because I have so many things to share sometimes. Yeah, I go and I wonder, and then I come back to the spiral. So going back to that, okay, and will lead me to what they shared. So they came. They had such good news. They said, we have such good news. And I felt them celebrating in the tiny compartment. And I started talking about how this was still in hiding. And then I started talking about a deeper thing. So I saw them, and they were transmitting to me literally. And the reason why I always know it's them, because I feel an incredible amount of belly joy, like laughter, just comes out of me. This is how you recognize high intelligence. It doesn't come in thoughts. It comes as an emanation. And thoughts follow the last part when they're starting to pour out something that you, the human, need to receive. And so they're telling me that they have such good news. I can literally, let me see if I can read it to you. They said there were 3 timelines or options for them to do and to create the best, medium, and last resort, and that after a very long time they had a major victory because that best option was already successful, which is rare for us, you know. We always go for the second or the third because it's so difficult with so much opposition, right? They said, and it's manifesting now. And I felt them like gathered in one group in a crowd, like they were celebrating, very joyful. And they said that whatever me and Florentina that we did not experience here on Earth, we will experience back at home. That we are definitely their heroes, their heroines, that will be treated like royal queens that we truly are when considered from back home, the perspective of home and that realm, which is just immaculate, you know. That was that. And it was a funny thing because I was supposed to have a session with someone that night, that evening, and so suddenly they started talking about her, and they said, oh yeah, her, you know her? They're like, she's your employee, haha. They were laughing because, you know, we use their terms, you know. And they said she will be doing the continuation legacy work. So they gave me some insight, and then we meet, and it was such a humble, beautiful meeting. And I just said, why wouldn't you just come to me for a visit, because it's so short. And it's just right now in an alignment before I plug off, you know, in July and August, preparing for my physical ascension, and, you know, to be with the team and to eventually go with them when the time comes, leaving everything behind. But there's still portions of things I need to leave and disseminate and put here, and it's a very responsible task, and that's why I need to be very diligent with my time now. And not everyone will now be able to come in my space because of that, and not because there's something wrong or anything. You know, I will still be sharing some things that I said I need to deposit on Patreon, but definitely not here on YouTube anymore. And it was such a beautiful thing, because everything I received for the being was like so effortlessly coming through. And right away she's like, yeah, of course, I'll come. And they showed me, because they were in a being was in a very difficult situation, right? And they have something in the body that's still also painful. And they were showing me, and they told me, they said, because of our intelligence, right? Because all high advanced beings work through subtle energy fields, not manipulating, but creating these, like we do it with the pulsar, right? Other beings do it differently. And you have to know, we're not just the pulsar. We contain all three. It's not like we're this, they're that. But the main focus on what we do is that essence, right? But when you're a cosmic Christ, a being of divine Trinity and cosmic Christ nature, you have to contain all of them, right? So the Pleiadian union, right? You can imagine it as the twin polarity sign. The Syrian, right, has the Merkaba sign, and the pulsar has this, right? Our mission is Aurea, Aurus, right? So all these, like, for us it represents joining with spirit and the body, and the Christ, the Syrian is the soul merging with the body. So they're all different aspects, but they're all one. And they said, for example, in the example of that being, that when we come physically have hands-on-hand healing, they can work through the subtle energy fields. That's how they've been doing healing with me, through me. Sometimes for me, through my mother, through Florentina, and I was able to be healed from very difficult conditions as well, only because of them, because they're advanced intelligence, and they are that aspect that is the healer aspect. So in that regard, they said what we're going to do, what we're going to be able to do, because they said we don't have time, it's not much time left. It's not like someone can go years into doing self-healing, because the legacy has to continue, and the teachings and the dispensations of the sacred devotional path. And they said to me, she'll be doing the work, but we need to do the healing first. And they gave me an approximation that what we're going to do in one session, in one weekend, she as on her own, let's say it will last like 5 years. They said something like that, and it can be intense, you know, because they said there are no healers physically embodied right now. They said they can channel such an advanced energy, such a subtle, masterful, illumined presence. They said, but also when you do it on your own, it can take time. And no matter what kind of healer you go to, it's, as you know, when beings don't know and they're not a vessel for this yet, it can take time. And it's still going to eventually result in a healing, but they said now for this, for the mission, we don't have time. That's why everything now is scheduled to the last T. But the last thing I want to say is that in the end of all of our missions, all of our purpose being one, under the name of God, what God desires, what God envisioned since the beginning. As you know, sorry, there's ants here. Many beings, all beings in this galaxy went through deep cycles of separation, and that's why a lot of you have in your cellular memory, oh, I can't come together with my soulmate. Like you can't, you never can't, yeah? Because there were cycles of this separation, but now we're, as you know, we're in a cycle of union and homecoming and togetherness, and it's not going to all happen for everyone in one lifetime. But it already started. It started in this lifetime. This is where the initiative of the beloved Illumined Union came, and that's why I was the first one talking about the Illumined Union, not two beings meeting and just being a couple. No, the Illumined Union is the advanced Illumined Hirogamic principles that can run between two beings, and the Pleiadian pathways joining that physically together in that Hirogamic body-to-body connection. That's why most beings who are in this counterpart path, physically, they know they have this with the counterpart. The Syrian emissaries, they feel more a devotion to dispensating that, and you know, and doesn't mean they wouldn't have a beloved or a partner. I'm just saying that's the main devotion. And the Victorian ones are the vessels, and they're just going to begin to, what I see, because of who I am, who we were, because it's an advance, it's a new energy. It did not come here before because the conditions were too... We needed other waves to start this, right? And that's why those who have a Pleiadian, even body lineage, feel the most of this rage or anger or suppression, what all took place for your human bodies. And I even said to my new initiator, right? I said to her, you're going to have to do this ceremony to even forgive all the previous bodies, that what they suffered, how they suffered, and just do it and fully release it to the womb of the mother. But you have to know our collective, our overall mission for all of us is to come together as one family, each belonging to each. So these were the words of Aurea. They said, no one is whole or no collective is whole until all of the chosen star family is back together as one. This is a cycle of union, of bringing family ties closer and eventually being together as one, just how God wants it to be, forever and always. Very simple, but very true. And during your cycles of being here, I'm not saying there wouldn't be challenges for you or a counterpart or a beloved or whatever you're going to be experiencing, or it's trying to disseminate a body of teaching, continuing an Illumined teaching legacy. You know, I only have what I believe someone that I could fully trust with this, you know, with leaving that legacy. I don't have really many that I would feel are aligned with that. But definitely, I'm not saying this life would be without challenges, but everyone's life has to be fulfilled under the vision of God. And that's why I can straightforward tell you that mine has been completed. I've worked like crazy and I was the vessel. I was never truly, although I have a very deeply feminine energy, and even in the book it says that the Arcturian counterpart is explained as more feminine part of the Christ divine, yeah? And it's true, it is for me, it's like an honoring of life, but that, the way we do work comes through the pulsar, yeah? That honoring of life and creating the pulsar to do these breakthroughs and then to liberate life. You know, someone recently called me, Polona, Aurea, the great liberator. Yeah, I am. I've done and I've witnessed a lot of powerful liberations with many as well. And it is all for the homecoming, right? But as I've said, it wouldn't come without surprises as well. But everyone will have to go through their own, and everyone still has a lot of growth to do. And especially if you're still thinking and considering only yourself, me, mine, this is what I want. Rather, even if it's about a counterpart in union, surrender your union to God and say, God, what do you want to do with my union? Not just, I want to be happy and fulfilled with this person. I just really want this. Just completely dissolve, surrender your union to God, because if it's truly a union, it will serve a higher purpose than you just coming together with a person. And to fulfill that Pleiadian part of the legacy of the agreement, that it's body to body, this hiragamic union that physically as a person I never got to experience, because I was even told years ago, the creation angels, we experienced union in essence, and that's how I was experiencing all these years. So in the last, I just want to show you these images, okay? So the first one is this drawing that I did for the capturing of what I saw as the mission of the cosmic Christ. Not the mission, but the initiative and principles of cosmic rays. So here you have a Pleiadian spiral, right? It's the silver pink. Here you have, sorry, I need to use this to kind of back it up. Okay, so I hope you can see it. So this is the Syrian counterpart that has golden spiral that goes into the Syrian seed. That was the Syrian seed in the Syrian womb. Then it goes the Pleiadian seed and the Pleiadian womb. And these two, as you can see directly with the lines, they go into the middle. That one in the middle is what it represents with the Sirius, and that's why I always saw my energy as golden white, these pulses of golden white. And when they connect here at the hub, behind it all, what you see here is what we call the Great Central Sun. And in the previous video, I already shared with you that when I asked them, where do we go for council meetings? Where are we actually gathering? They said Alcyon, and this is where we're exchanging, right? And here you see the sign with the Illumined pod and the signs like this and like this. This is for Aureus. This is that intelligence coming out as a pulsar. So we have all three main cosmic Christ initiatives and intelligences in this galaxy, proliferating life through the golden, they're all absorbing the golden spiral of the mother and this Christic principle coming through illumination poured into the Syrian, the Arcturian counterpart here receives this first, and it dispensates this as a pulsar. We dispensate this spiral of pulses and we connect to the Syrian Christ illumined principle and then the Pleiadian, and they both match up because they represent also the beloveds, right? Masculine, feminine principles of Christ, divine masculine of Christ, divine feminine of Christ. They both carry and bring their seeds. These seeds would then travel to, you know, like when the mission is on Earth, we bring it to Earth, but there's also various stations of life that we've done this before. But it's that aspect here, the golden white, and the hub of, I always saw, I was seeing our beings back at home. What we do is we receive the life currents of the mother, right? That the creation mother, and we're kind of using the pulsar to discharge and dispensate them, that all these others receive them. So then it goes into the masculine divine part of the Christ, and then it goes to the feminine divine part of the Christ. Together it's one cosmic Christ principle. So that's the golden triangle. And then here what comes out is these, you can see Aureus is the pulsars, and it's this initiative how we move into life. So they move as the seeds, right? Christ seed of illumined life, Pleiadian seed of illumined life. Ours is like this. And ours in that union is called Illuvir. Illuvir means that divine union, right? It's that completely benevolently androgynous merged herogamic union, right? And that's basically how this principle looks like. Behind us all is the central intelligence of the central sun that we know as love, wisdom, and power, right? The three-folded flame. And as you can see, it's all lit with that glow and hue of love, because it's the space we're all one, we all meet. And it's no separation here. It's just the tasks we're individually in our specializations performing, but as in essence, we're one being. And that's how intelligence, if it's divine, when it's truly illumined, operates. So the next drawing, this is the one I did last, is this one, and it's called this one is about the prism of life. You know, I've been talking about how you ascend. You're going to ascend through your individual prism of life, but I've been doing, this drawing is like a summary of my 7 sacral spiral teachings that will continue to be on Patreon, available to all those who want to learn and become disciples of the cosmic Christ themselves. So again, you have the Syrian, the Pleiadian counterparts. Here is Arcturus, you know, it's like this giant, they call it, how did they call it? They said they used this word how they see Arcturus. They said I forgot. They said something about a diamond, or maybe I remember later. They gave it a name. A precious, no, it wasn't shiny diamond, it was something else. And so you see, right, when you're in your, this is the prism of life, as you can see it like a pyramid of immaculate design. You see these golden white rays again. They come in and they come through that Arcturian principle as the spiral teachings. They come out at the human level. They exit out through this base. This is just 2 portals, the upper and the lower, and they exit out as the 7. They manifest as the 7 physical rays of creation, right? And this polarity of the twin universes is called the Father universe, and the Mother's universe is like 2 eyes looking into creation. And here the human is the one, the vessel, the body that was developed to experience it all. They can channel it all. It can be a vessel, it can be an embodier, it can be anything. It is a completely immaculate design before all the hijacking and harnessing. But those who would follow this path, right, and learn the teachings and become initiated themselves would be able to move their bodies to this state of absolute union. Not just the union of, because these are the 3 main principles, right? The inner union of masculine, feminine, divine in the Christ, the union of soul, the essence with the body, but the last step is the union of spirit with the body. That's the Arcturian pulsar initiative, right? So it's 3 levels of that union. The inner, right? The soul with the body, and then the spirit with the body. That's represented. The spirit with the body is represented with this one, yeah? With Aureus. Completely perfected what I saw, Aurea Auren, representing this perfected masculine, feminine, from spirit to form. That's what it presented to me. And when a human, right, is in that union, which is the most beautifully described by the entwining double twin symbols, can completely channel this golden life force, golden spiral, through the principles of crown, heart, and the root. I've been talking about this, being both in the universe of the Father and the universe of the Mother, being in that complete union, right? Again, Sirius, Pleiades, and Arcturus, and then this comes through as the above portal and the lower portal through which all the 7 rays of creation manifest. This is when you're a human, right, you have one specific focal ray of purpose. For me, that's the white ray of purity and ascension and harmony. But it's also mostly, when you're in that state, you can channel all the 7 rays of creation in its immaculate form. They just flow and run through you when you're in that complete spiral consciousness, attainment, and embodiment. That's organic ascension. There's no other way. That's a complete ascension. And there's many partial ascensions that beings experience even in other star systems, but this is the only true one. I drew it full ascension. And you, as I said, you fully manifest all the 7 rays of creation. And here you see the violet flames, the violet fire emanates a beautiful light of purification. That's what the human can do. It can be the most powerful force to be reckoned with once they are really in that principle. And the teachings and how to work with them, they're all on Patreon. So I hope this visual was able to aid some of you to have a clear understanding. But I think that's what I wanted to share in the first part. My life will get very interesting in the next few, whatever I have left in this few months. But for more, I will do the continuation in the next one, which will be focused more on that beloved illumined aspect. And I'll see. So I want to take you to the next part. I just want to encourage you to watch both, and thank you for watching so much. I wish you all nothing but the truth, and how that truth, not just through with word, but it manifests in all the ways and all the realms of your being, and to become a completely selfless, God-invested, God, channel of God, a pure one of God, being on this path of discipleship, devotion, and union. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. With so much love is in power. Bye.
Come into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.